from computer. There we go. Welcome, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for joining us. I'm Brother Doug, and with me is my sister Shoshana, our sister Sadie, our sister Marie, our sister Josie, our brother Dennis, and our sister River. And we're going to be doing a study today called...
And Sally.
It's Sally, I think. Okay.
Sally's here with me.
All right. Yep. Sally's with Sister Shoshana over in Jordan today, so she'll be on briefly. The Tanak, Old Testament, and Apocrypha foreshadows Yahusha as the true Messiah to die for our sins. So since for a lot of us, a lot of brothers and sisters, this week it's been the week of unleavened bread, so I figured to do a study kind of focusing on Yahusha's sacrifice and the fact that he was foreshadowed in BC literature as the true Messiah before the New Testament even existed. I'm gonna start us off with Jeremiah 11, verse 19 from the Septuagint. I'm gonna start our reading off here. So let me just go to my e-sword so people can follow along here. Let me just do that. Put that on the shared screen, shared computer sound. There we go. All right. So. And we got, let's see here. So Jeremiah 11:19. What are my Bretons here? All right, here we go. Verse 19. Go all the way down here. And so you'll see a pretty key difference between what we have in our modern Bibles in this verse. Let's see here. It says, "But I, as an innocent lamb, was led to the slaughter, knew not against me they devised an evil device, saying, Come, let us put wood into his bread, and let us utterly destroy him off of the land of the living. Let his name not be remembered anymore." So this is a prophecy, in my opinion, is referring to both the Father Yahuwah and the Son Yahusha, that he would be led as an innocent lamb to the slaughter, and that both of their names would not be remembered anymore, because the Father's name has been replaced in your Bibles, whatever Bible you read from today, practically 7,000 times. His name has been replaced with the Lord God. So, I mean, just quite literally, his name has been replaced and has been forgotten and not remembered. The Son's name has been forgotten and not remembered. It's been substituted with Jesus Christ, which is not even a transliteration of his true name. It's a complete substitution. So to me, this definitely has been fulfilled. And wood into his bread. Well, the wood would be the stake, the cross. The bread would be his body, as he mentions in the Brit Hadashah, the New Testament, later on, when the New Testament's compiled. Yahusha, when he was on earth, said to his disciples, "This is my bread. This bread is my body broken for you." So it's an allegory for the bread, and the wood is the allegory for his body being pierced by the stake, basically. So, and obviously the book of Jeremiah was written way before the New Testament, so clearly a BC literature. And my sister Shoshana is next. She will be reading Isaiah 53 verses 3 to 12. And I'll mute myself here. Okay, that was weird.
You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Despised and rejected by men, a man of pains and knowing sickness, and as one from whom the face is hidden, being despised, and we did not consider him. Truly, he has borne our sicknesses and carried our pains. Yet we reckoned him smitten, stricken by Elohim, and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our crookednesses. The chastisement for our peace was upon him, and by his stripes we are healed. We all, like sheep, went astray. Each one of us has turned to his own way, and Yahweh has laid on him the crookedness of us all. He was oppressed and he was afflicted, but he did not open his mouth. He was led as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before his shearers is silent, but he did not open his mouth. But he was taken from prison and from judgment, and as for his generation, what considered that he shall be cut off from the land of the living? Who considered that he shall be cut off from the land of the living? For the transgression of my people he was stricken, and he was appointed a burial site with the wrong and with the rich at his death, because he had done no violence, nor was deceit in his mouth. But Yahweh was pleased to crush him. He laid sickness on him, and when he made himself an offering for guilt, he would see a seed. He would prolong his days, and the pleasure of Yahweh prosper in his hand. He would see the result of the suffering of his life and be satisfied. Through his knowledge, my righteous servant makes many righteous. Sorry about that. And he bears their crookednesses. Therefore, I give him among the great, and he divides the spoil with the strong, because he poured out his being into death. And he was counted with the transgressors, and he bore the sin of many, and made intercession for the transgressors.
Wow. Wow. So, I mean, that
Yahusha.
you can get the picture just from that portion of the chapter there, who it's talking about. And this is another prophet which lived way before Yahusha came to earth, way before he even dwelled as a man. So the Septuagint, I just noticed this actually adds a little bit in one of those verses. It says, if you could give an offering for sin, you would have a long-lived seed. And I find it interesting because, the seed war. So it's kind of interesting because it's almost like a question Isaiah is posing to the Son of Man. If you could, give yourself as an offering, you would have a long-lived seed, in which we're all the seed of Messiah. So it's kind of, to me, it's kind of interesting with that phrase. But as we move on here, with our sister Sadie, we'll be going up next with Zechariah chapter 12, verse 10. Here we go. Sister
Okay.
Sadie. Okay. Let me know.
Zechariah 10, 12:10, right?
Yes.
Okay. And I shall pour out on the house of Dawood and on the inhabitants of Yerushalayim a ruach of favor and prayers, and they shall look upon me whom they have pierced, and they shall mourn for him as one mourns for his only son. And they shall be in bitterness over him as a bitterness over the firstborn. Wow.
Yeah. What's crazy about the Septuagint is that you'll see this phrase reiterated, beloved, the beloved. And it's kind of interesting. You'll see later in our study at some point how the beloved is very, very telling of who this person is. But in the Septuagint it says, they shall make lamentation for him as for a beloved friend, and they shall grievously as for a firstborn son. So where Yahusha later on says, you are my friends if I do what you tell me, if you do what I tell you to do, if you obey me, you are my friends, not just my servants, but my friends. So it's kind of telling that the Septuagint has as a beloved friend. And, the beloved, you'll see later on in our study how it ties back to Yahusha being the Messiah foretold. And Zechariah 9:9, Sister Sally. Also, after that, John chapter 12, verse 15.
Just a second here.
Yeah, no problem. Mute myself.
Okay, Isaiah 63:1. Who is this coming from Edom with garments of glowing colors from Basora? Who is robed in splendor, striding forward in the greatness of his strength? It is I who speak in righteousness, mighty to save. That was supposed to be Batsra or Botsra. How do you say that? Batsra?
Yeah, Basra. Yeah, that's a place in where the Edomites were. Yeah. And you might as well, since you read that one first instead of the Zechariah 9:9, you should probably read the Revelations 19:1 that goes with the Isaiah 63.
Sorry, you didn't assign me that one. Which one
I
is it?
didn't. Okay.
No, Revelation what? I'm sorry.
Right. That's fine.
No, I can get to Revelation real fast.
A Revelation, I think it's 19 verse. Let me just make sure it's correct. I think it's 13 and 15, both verses.
Okay. Revelation 19, verse 13. And having been dressed in a robe dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of Yahuwah. And also verse 15, you said?
Mm-hmm.
And out of his mouth goes a sharp sword, that with it he should smite the nations, and he shall shepherd them with a rod of iron, and he treads the winepress of the fierceness and wrath of El Shaddai.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So Isaiah 63 is talking about Yahusha. Before he came, he was the one that was going to be in the wine press, and he's got all his garments dipped in blood. No one was with him. And so it's kind of interesting. Isaiah 63:1 like foreshadows what you just read in Revelations 19.
Yes.
So I think you also had Zechariah chapter 9 verse 9 with John 12 verse 15, I believe.
Well, you know what you, oh, I see what you're doing. Okay, I got it.
Yeah, I'm trying to like pair the Old and New Testaments together.
Okay. Just a second here. Okay, Zechariah 9, excuse me, 9:9. And
Let's see here, let me just get to it.
rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion. Shout, O daughter of Jerusalem. See, your sovereign is coming to you. He is righteous and endowed with deliverance, humble and riding on a donkey, a colt, the foal of a donkey. You want me to go on to the third one?
Just if you could pair John 12:15 with that.
Okay, sure. Okay, John 12:15. Do not fear, daughter of Zion. See, your sovereign is coming, sitting on the colt of a donkey. And that would be paired with which one? I'm sorry.
You just read it. You just read it. The Zechariah 9:9 and
I'm
John
sorry.
12:15. Oh, no
Okay.
problem, sis. No, that I'm just trying to show the viewers and listeners the connection there. That's why I had you read it with those two together as one. So yep. So you have Yahusha and Zechariah 9:9 was the king of Zion, foreshadowed in there, riding on a donkey. What's interesting too is King Solomon, before he became wicked, was riding on a donkey when he was a young king. So there's like I believe that's why Yahusha said, a greater than Solomon is before you. So he was like kind of comparing himself when Solomon was righteous. And so Solomon kind of foreshadowed Yahusha even before Zechariah 9:9 existed. The whole king of Yasharel riding on a donkey. Also, Sister Sadie, if you could possibly read Zechariah chapter 11, verses 12 to 13, and after that, you'll jump to Matthew 26:15. So first read Zechariah 11, 12 to 13.
Okay. And I said to them, if it is not good in your eyes, give me a wage. And if not, refrain. So then the weight out of our so they weighed out for my wages 30 pieces of silver. And Yahuwah said to me, throw it to the potter and spend splendid price, which I was valued by them, the splendid price at which I was valued by them. And I took the 30 pieces of silver and threw them into the house of Yahuwah for the potter. Sorry about that, guys. This is small words, small lettering. Okay, I'm going to Matthew now, 26:15. I don't have my 26:15 is right here.
If it's easier, sis, you could read it from the shared screen if you want.
Okay, let me do that. Pull it up, brother.
Yep, I got it up
Okay.
right now. There you go.
Okay. Matthew 26:15 said, what would you give me to deliver him to you? And they counted out him 30 pieces of silver. How sad.
Mm-hmm. So exactly what's interesting, sis, is who's the one that is valued at 30 pieces in Zechariah? The Son or the Father? I don't know. Oh, sis, you're muted? Okay. So basically what's interesting to me in Zechariah 11, Yahuwah is the one valued at 30 pieces of silver, and then it's fulfilled by Yahusha in the New Testament. So it's kind of interesting to me. I see like a little oneness there, in my opinion.
That's pretty awesome, Brother Doug. I love that pairing you're doing.
Yeah, so that's just something I've came across. Sometimes when the Tanak, in the prophets of the Tanakh, they'll say the Father is prophesied that it's going to happen to him. It's actually fulfilled by the Son.
Exactly.
And so that's pretty cool in my opinion.
It sure is. It's beautiful.
In the Hallelujah scriptures, it's written in the Paleo.
Oh yeah. So the reason I believe it's the Father valued there, just to explain to people, when it's not directly the Father talking to someone, it will say, thus says Yahuwah, usually. That means a messenger is talking to the prophet, but if it just says Yahuwah said to so, it's actually Yahuwah first person in a vision talking to the prophet. So in that instance, it's like Yahuwah is directly talking to Jeremiah. And he's saying, this is the price that they counted me for. And yeah, so that's like a little thing I've seen in scripture where thus says usually means like you got an angel talking to the prophet and speaking on basically being the Father's mouthpiece sometimes. And then you have it sometimes where Yahuwah is verbatimly speaking as himself to, it's Yahuwah in person talking to the prophet in the vision. So let's see here. You got Psalms chapter 40, verse 6 to 8 for Brother Dennis. He's up next. And after that, Brother Dennis, you'll be reading Hebrews 10, 5 to 6. Okay, let me just mute myself.
Okay, Doug, you had me muted there.
Sorry,
Can you hear
bro.
me
Sorry
okay?
about that. Yep, I can hear you.
Okay. All right. Which one you want me to do first?
Psalms
Psalm.
46 to 8, and then you'll do the Hebrews 10.
Okay. Psalms 46 through 8. Slaughtering and meal offering you did not desire. You have opened my ears. Burnt offerings and sin offering you did not ask for. Then I said, see, I have come. In the scroll of the book that is prescribed for me. I have delighted to do your pleasure, O my Yahuwah, and your Torah is within my heart. Okay. And you say, which is the next one?
Oh, hold on, Dennis. I forgot that there's a huge difference in the Septuagint here. Before you get to Hebrews 10, I just want to show the difference in the Septuagint from where you just read. It says, sacrifice and offering you would not, but a body you have prepared for me. Whole burnt offering and sacrifice for sin you did not require. Then I said, behold, I come in the volume of the book it is written concerning me. I desire to do your will, O my all. Your law is in the midst of mine heart. So I just wanted to show the difference real quick there. A body you have prepared for me is lacking in the Masoretic text there.
Oh, yeah. That's bad. Okay. We ready for Hebrews 10?
Yep.
Okay. This is 10, 5 and 6. Therefore, coming into the world, he says, slaughtering and meal offering you did not desire, but a body you have prepared for me. In burnt offerings and offerings for sin you did not delight.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that shows you that obviously back then, what version of the Old Testament were they using? Paul and all the apostles. So that shows you right there. The Septuagint, obviously, they had. Yeah.
Constantly referring back to Yahusha.
Yeah. A body you have prepared for me. The only person I know in history that didn't originate as a human and had a vessel prepared for him to come into the earthly realm would be him. I mean, that's the only thing that would make sense to me, is that he's as a celestial, heavenly co-creator being is talking about a body that's prepared for him by the Father for him to come to earth. That, to me, that would make perfect sense. So, yeah, let me see here. Psalm 69, verse 21, Sister Shoshana, and also Matthew 27:34. Let's see here. Mute myself. Or do I have to unmute Sister Shoshana? Let me see here. I think, yeah. There we go.
Oh, but what was the first one?
Psalm 69, verse 21.
Okay. Verse 21. And they gave me gall for my food, and for my thirst, they gave me vinegar to drink. We know that Yahusha was given vinegar to drink.
Yep. Yep. And paired with that, I have you to read where it's actually fulfilled is Matthew 27:34.
Okay, verse 34 says, they gave him wine mixed with bile, to drink, and after tasting, he would not drink it.
Yeah, so just to explain to any of the viewers or listeners out there, a lot of times you'll see David foreshadowing what Yahusha would later fulfill in the times of, what's known as, the times of the Basora accounts. Yahusha actually fulfills a lot of what David foreshadows in the book of Psalms. So even though David's saying they gave me gall to drink, as far as we know historically, he never drank any gall or vinegar. So obviously he's foreshadowing who would be basically who he's supposed to represent, because David, was a king, the line of Judah. He's basically foreshadowing Yahusha, who would come later on. And let's see here. Where are we up to now? We are up to Sister Sally will be reading Psalms 22, verse 16. They pierced my hands and feet.
Dogs have surrounded me. A crowd of evil ones have encircled me, piercing my hands and my feet. And the other one then would be John 12, verse 15. Do not fear, daughter of Zion. See, your sovereign is coming, sitting on the colt of a donkey.
Oh yeah, that was the one you read before. Yeah, no problem. That was paired with the Zechariah 9:9. So I actually didn't have anything paired with "they pierced my hands and feet." I couldn't find the exact wording in the New Testament, but I mean, we know that he was impaled, he was crucified. They impaled his hands and feet. Historically speaking, we know that as a fact.
We just read that verse, right? The next verse below it, was it Matthew 27:34? And
Yeah.
then that 35 talks about that.
Okay. All right. My bad about that. So Matthew 27:35. So that's the fulfillment of Psalms 22:16. Okay. And having impaled him, they divided his clothes among themselves, casting lots. Which actually, that's also talked about in the book of Psalms, that where David says they have cast my clothing for lots. So a lot of the times David will actually be foreshadowing Yahusha. Okay, I actually didn't assign this one here.
I can read that one.
Let's see here. Sister Sally, if you want, you can also read, I noticed no one has an assignment for this one, Psalms 34, verse 20. Okay.
34:20.
Yes.
Okay. Second, I'm almost there.
Yep, no problem. I'm just getting it here for the viewers. There we go.
He is guarding all his bones. Not one of them is broken.
Yep. The Passover lamb, you can't break their bones.
Mhm.
And I believe this is another prophecy David's writing from the Psalms, foreshadowing Yahusha. They didn't break his bones.
Right.
So there, a lot of the Psalms you'll see that in. And in the part 2, I'm going to be reading from an extra biblical book, the part 2 of this study that actually mentions this ahead of time. It's called the Ascension of Isaiah. It actually mentions, haven't I been mentioned in the book of Psalms and the Proverbs of his son Solomon? So it's kind of interesting that the extra biblical books actually let you know that that's who all these Psalms we've just read to you guys, who it's referring to. Let's see, Sister Shoshana, I have you for Psalms 22, verse 1. Let's see.
All right, hold on.
Okay, Psalms 22, verse 1.
my all, why have you forsaken me? Far from saving me, far from the words of my groaning. And the literal words spoken by Yahusha were, Ali, Ali, lama sabachthani. I wrote a song about it.
Yeah, so, yeah, when he's on the stake and he's dying, he's saying that exact phrase as Shoshana said. So even to his dying breath in his human ministry, he was proving to people that he was the Messiah. And I think one of the Roman centurions, if I remember the story correct, they were like, he was the son of Aloa. Because they realized what I forget what happened. They actually were looking up when he was saying that. And the centurions were actually believing in him rather than his own people. His own people were still mocking him, and they were still saying,
Yes,
"Yep, go
and
ahead, sis."
thunderstorm, right? And the curtain tore, they say, but it just thundered so loud, and I think that at that point,
Earthquake.
yeah, an earthquake, they all fell. I mean, like, wow, could you imagine?
Yeah,
Whew. That must have been a day that shook them enough to where today we are where we're at.
And
Yeah.
that earthquake caused his blood to come down into the rocks and land on the mercy seat of the Ark of the Covenant. Ron Wyatt proved that. And his blood only had 24 chromosomes.
Yeah.
23 from his mother and 1 Y chromosome, making him male from Father Yahuwah.
Yeah.
And
No one else has
there were graves that were open, and there were people that were resurrected into physical life again for a while.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here we go. Sister Sadie, I have you also reading here Psalms 109, verse 4.
How about if I give that to Sister Josie?
Okay, sure. No problem.
Josie? Let's see if she's there. Okay.
Okay. Actually, I just got off a call. Somebody had called me. I have an aunt that's ready to pass away any moment now.
Aw.
I know. And I just lost a good friend yesterday.
Oh, Mika.
Yeah, it's been a rough week, but Yah is good and he is in control, and we keep pushing forward.
And he's taking him out of this misery. This what we're living. What a rejoicing.
Definitely. I'm like, hallelujah. Are you kidding me? Okay, so you said
my name is in the jar like 100 times.
Oh gosh, Sadie, you're too much. So Brother Doug, did you say Psalms 109:4?
Yep. Affirmative.
Okay. They repaid my love with slander.
Yeah. So while Yahusha, he never spoke in any guile to no one. All he cared about was preaching the truth, loving them, and they returned it for hate. They called him a blasphemer. They called him this and that, and they were always trying to stone him. So that's another thing he fulfilled, was they returned my love for slander, false accusations of him. Yeah. So let's see here.
In the Hallelujah version, it says, "In return for my love, they accuse me while I am in prayer."
Yep. For his love, they accused him. They accused him of blasphemy. They accused him of all types of things, saying that he was going to replace the temple with his own body. I mean, They twisted his words against him, basically. That's what they did. So, Sister Marie, I have you reading Psalms chapter 16, verse 10.
Okay. For you will not let my soul be prison in the underworld. You will not let your loved one see the place of death.
Yep, so this is talking about basically Yahuwah resurrected him. You know, the Father resurrected him from Sheol, the grave, when he was in 3 days and 3 nights. He was not left in the grave. He resurrected. He was brought back to life, and he did not see corruption. So basically, you know, corruption could be, you know, referring to, you know, probably it's referring to that he had a resurrected body, pretty much. At some point, he ascends up into heaven, and then, you know, he has a resurrected body now, so he doesn't have corruption, a corruptible body anymore. So, or it could be referring to sin also too. So, but yeah, so that's another one, Psalm 16:10. And then let's see here, we're up to Sister Shoshana. You're next with Psalms 110, verse 1.
Yahweh said to my master, sit at my right hand until I make your enemies a footstool for your feet.
What was that again? That footstool?
Footstool for your feet. Yep.
Sounds like a dome. Nice little footstool that Josie has all over her house.
Yep. Yep. A dome. Yeah,
Well,
what does it say?
The earth is his footstool.
Yep. Yep. So this was a prophecy referring to the Messiah, and even the Pharisees understood this. And what's funny is Yahusha said, how can David, if he's the son of David, why does the son of David say, call the Messiah his master? So Yahusha was being kind of basically to, you know, put the Pharisees in their place, because they, you know, he wanted to see what they thought the Messiah is supposed to be. And let me see, it says, my master said, I want to look that up real quick, because there is a verse in Psalms that says, my master, Yahuwah said to my master, sit at my right hand. Let's see here. The Lord said to my master. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Psalms 110:1. Okay. I guess some versions don't
I
have.
just read.
Okay. All right. I was just making sure, because I didn't know if it actually. Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yahuwah said to my master. So yeah. So basically, Yahusha is kind of trying to show the Pharisees that he's the one. He's like, you know, hinting at he's the one that scripture's referring to, and they still didn't receive it, and they didn't get it, why he was pretty much pointing out that the Messiah can't be the literal son of David. But anyway, let me see. Brother Dennis, can you read Psalms 22, verse 18?
Psalms 22, verse 18. Yep.
Uh-oh. I think Brother Dennis got disconnected somehow. Uh-oh. All right. Let me help him out here. Psalms 22:18. I don't know how that happened. I was just checking to see if there was any background noise going on, and all of a sudden he got dropped out. So let me see here. All right, Psalms 22:18. I'll go to it here and see here. Okay, so they divided my garments among them, and for my raiment they casted lots. So that was that right there. Okay, so they casted lots for his clothing, which we find out later in the Brit Hadashah that actually happened. They casted lots for his clothing. Okay, so let me see here. Let's go back to our study here and see who's next. Okay. All right, so I am next. I'm going to be reading from an extra biblical book here, which is known as The Ascension of Isaiah. So just kind of keep yourself open-minded here. We're about to start reading from a little Apocrypha here after all the prophets we just read from. Okay, let me just go to Ascension of Isaiah. I have an actual online version of this that I'll read from for you guys so you can see it on the shared screen so you know I'm not making this stuff up. Here we go. So here we go. Oh, hold on a second. Where's early Christian writings? There we go, because I want the whole book here. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so why the heck is it giving me such trouble now to look at? I don't understand that. This is so weird. Usually I can just read from it. Okay, hold on a sec. I know I have the book on me too. Let me just see here. There we go. I got it. I'll have to read it from. Unfortunately, they're not allowing me to read the whole thing for whatever weird reason. Okay. All right. So this is a little excerpt from the Ascension of Isaiah. Okay, it's translated by R.H. Charles, who also did the Ethiopic version of the Book of Enoch. Okay, and it goes as follows. Chapter 4, verse 13 of the Ascension of Isaiah. And many believers and set apart ones, having seen him, whom they were expecting, who was impaled, who was crucified. Yahusha, the Master Messiah. I, Isaiah, had seen him who was crucified, impaled, and ascended, and those who were believers in him of these few in those days will be left as his servants, while they flee from desert to desert, awaiting the coming of the beloved. Like I said earlier, the title The Beloved is a very important title to keep in your mind. So in this extra biblical book, Yahusha is referenced as the Beloved. It's like a title for him. So just keep that in mind. You're going to see that as we go into the Septuagint in certain verses. The Beloved is going to be very prophetic title, sometimes even used for Isaac, when Abraham offers Isaac. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so let me just see here. So we got now the Apocalypse of Abraham. I'm going to be reading, which is another extra biblical book, which talks about Yahusha before he came to earth. Way before the New Testament, in my opinion, would have been written. So, Apocalypse of Abraham, chapter 29, verses 3 to 12, I'm going to read. And we might have to do a part 2 after that, because I'm pretty sure we're going to start running on an hour and a half already. So, let's see here. Here we go. All right, so I'm going to have this online version of it on my shared screen here. Okay, so, and this is very accessible to get it from Amazon. These two extra biblical books are very cheap. Here we go. It says, chapter 29, and I'll even start up at verse 1. And I said, Eternal Mighty One, how long a time is an hour of the age? And he said, a decree to keep 12 periods of the irreverent age among the heathens and among your seed, for in the seed of Abraham, And what you have seen will be until the end of time. And you will understand. Look down at the picture, and I saw a man going from the left, the heathen side. From the side of the heathen went out men and women and children, great crowd, and they worshipped him. And I was still looking. Those on the right side came out, and some insulted this man, and some struck him, and others worshipped him. And I saw that as they worshipped him, Azazel, which Azazel for some reason is a name for Satan in this book, the Watcher Azazel, ran and worshipped and kissing his face. He turned and stood behind him, and I said, Eternal Mighty One, who is this? Man insulted and beaten by the heathen, with Azazel worshipped, basically with Azazel worshiping him. And he answered and said, Hear, Abraham, the man whom you say insulted and beaten and again worshipped is the liberation from the heathen, for the people who will be born from you in the last days, in this 12th period of the age of my fulfillment. I will set up this man from your tribe, the one whom you have seen from my people. All will imitate him. Remember when Yahusha says, what I am doing, this is the example. Follow my example. Consider him as one called by me, are changed in their counsels, and those you saw coming out from the left side of the picture and worshiping him, this many of the heathen will trust in him. Like the Gentiles will become believers, and they're going to trust in him. And those of your seed you saw on the right side, some insulting him, some beating him, and others worshiping him. Many of them shall be offended because of him. It is he who will test those of your seed who have worshipped him in the fulfillment of the 12th hour, in the curtailing of the age of irreverence. Before the age of right ruling starts to grow, my right ruling will come upon the heathen who have acted wickedly through the people of your seed. And it goes so on and so forth. But the important part that I just read is it foreshadows Yahusha being kissed on the cheek by Satan, which we know happens when he comes to earth. You know, you have the Last Supper, the Passover meal. The betrayer, Yehuda Iscariot, Judas Iscariot, he gets possessed by Satan, and what does he do? He kisses Yahusha on the cheek. So, to me, I thought that alone from this chapter was worthy to share in this type of study. So, and it talks about that those people would be offended because of him, which is kind of interesting because Yahusha says that's going to happen in his return. In the New Testament, he says, you know, many will be offended because of me.
You know, that's what the mafia does. When they're going to murder somebody, they kiss them on the cheek.
Interesting. Very interesting. I never knew that. All right, let's see here. So, Sister Sally, if you could read Isaiah 55, verse 1, and Revelations 22:17.
Those weren't the two you assigned me. The other two that you assigned me. Could you say them again, and I'll go to them.
Yeah. Let's see. It was because I didn't get to assign you guys everything before we were able to start. So there's certain ones that you guys don't have written down. Isaiah 55, verse 1, and Revelations 22:17.
Okay. Just a moment.
Okay. Isaiah 55. difference.
Isaiah 55:1 goes like this. O everyone who thirsts, come to the waters, and you who have no silver, come, buy and eat. Come buy wine and milk without silver and without price. And Revelation 22:17. And the Spirit and the bride say, come. And he who hears, let him say, come. And he who thirsts, come. And he who desires it, take the water of life without paying.
Yep. And the verse right before that gives you the context of who's saying, "Come, take of the water freely." Yahusha, Yahusha, have sent my Malak, my angel, to testify of these things to you for the assemblies. I am the root and the stock of David, the bright morning star. So Yahusha is the one really telling the bride and the Spirit, basically the father and the bride, because the father is a set apart spirit. So basically Yahuwah is telling everyone to come and drink the water without price, and that connects with Isaiah 55:1. So let's see here. I think what we're going to do here, we're going to end this session, and we're going to do a part 2, only because there's still quite a bit of scripture still left, and I know that after a while, a lot of our viewers and listeners, they might need a break. So I'm going to stop this recording right now on this Facebook Live. Thank you for joining us so far. We are going to try to get to you part 2 of this study as soon as possible. Thank you for joining us on this Shabbat. For our brothers and sisters that have joined us so far today, thank you. Have a great rest of your Shabbat. Shalom. See you in a little. All right.